Hi, everyone. Welcome back for another dispatch. A beautiful fall day here. Really, really nice. Okay. Well, I want to continue with The Art of Resonance by Anne Bogart. I'm going to jump right in. On resonance. This is where I started, but I stopped. On resonance. I'm writing in the midst of a pause. Theaters have been shut down for an indeterminate amount of time, and no one knows what the future holds for the art of gathering together to experience performance. In this current moment of empty space, I return to the director Peter Brook's work, to his initial writings for guidance. Over the years, his books of essays have been a model for my own writing. I guess I want to, it's theater that she's writing about, but you'll see it's very relevant for us as painters. In 1968, Brooke began his seminal work, The Empty Space, with the following words: I can take any empty space and call it a bare stage. A man walks across this empty space whilst someone else is watching him. And this is all that is needed for an act of theater to be engaged. Keep in mind, I think for us as painters, we work with space, right? That is what's happening in a painting. It is like a stage. It's a spatial arena. The book fomented a revolution in the theater. Derived from a series of lectures begun in 1965, The Empty Space was a blunt assessment of the theater's failures and deficiencies, and a call for change that was forthright, informed, and rebellious. It felt novel. Although the more conservative theater world resisted, the book nevertheless became an invitation to make the antiquated stage relevant again, and ushered in an era of radical experimentation and deconstruction in small black box spaces, while exploring the classics in an intimate relationship to the audience. Thinking what's going on in painting at this time. Different, I think, in some way, perhaps. Brooke extended an invitation to theater makers to strip away the overabundance of stuff strewn across the stages. Well, that's kind of similar, moving into minimalism in painting and visual arts. The diversions, the excessive scenery and the noise. The deadly theater, as he called it, was in a rut, overly jacked up on sound, money, and music, all of which was keeping audiences from experiencing, feeling, listening. In other words, the clutter in the theater space was preventing resonance. He proposed a search for what is essential in the theater and wrote, "We have largely forgotten silence. It even embarrasses us. We clap our hands mechanically because we do not know what else to do, and we are unaware that silence is also permitted, that silence also is good." What would that be for us as painters? Stillness? The final chapter, The Immediate Theater, proposed a theater that asserts itself in the present, where an audience reacts to what is actually happening on the stage. The responses are different every time because the audience members are different, and it is impossible to predict their feelings, understandings, and behavior. Theater, this is a quote she brings, theater exists so that the unsaid can breathe, and a quality of life can be sensed, which gives a motive to the endless struggle. Makes me think of what my friend Mayer said about Painters work with the invisible. The unsaid can breathe. The invisible can become available. John Berger too, in that essay, A Professional Secret. Behind appearances. The empty space spoke to its time, its particular moment, and yet the essence of the book, the author's message, connects across the 40-some years since its publication. The message is, the essence of good theater is the human connection. During this current moment, 2020, this year of suspension and upheaval, a great deal of noise is happening all over the internet. Zoom performances, readings, dance, and concerts abound, and yet, personally, I resist this noise. What is lacking for me is resonance. What is resonance? The Oxford English Dictionary defines resonance as responding to vibrations of a particular frequency, especially by itself strongly vibrating. Resonance is what ripples and radiates. One energetic being influences the vibrations of another. If something has resonance for me, it typically also implies that it has a special meaning or a particular importance for me through its connections to my own life and experiences. Humans are resonating bodies that vibrate and fluctuate, and each of us gains our identity, a sense of who we are, through the quality of our relationships to experiences outside of ourselves. Paintings, I might add, resonate. This is, we know, right? This is our deal. This is what we do. We try to. In order to adapt effectively to our changing circumstances, we require stimulation. No good can be achieved by shutting oneself off from the world or from the environment, because exposure to discomfort and dissonance is as vital to our development as our need for food and water. Exposure to discomfort and dissonance is as vital to our development as our need for food and water. We become forceful human beings only through our processes of interaction with the world, starting with our own families and communities, and then moving outwards. But there are no guarantees. The quality of our lives and the impact of our world cannot be predicted by the options made available to us, or by the amount of resources or budgets afforded us. The impact is contingent upon the way the work resonates with our audiences and then spreads out into the world. Theater and resonance. Until recently, I assumed that the job of the theater was to plant lasting memories of the mind in the minds of audiences. I thought that the sign of a successful production is the enduring memories, literally the proteins created in the minds and bodies of the audience in the heat of a performance. If the theater were a verb, I thought it would be to remember, to put the pieces back together again. But then my colleague, Leon Ingolsrud, was thinking a great deal about memory loss due to a family member's struggle with Alzheimer's, challenged my assumptions by asking me how the theater might be beneficial to those without the capacity to remember. What about people who have trouble forming memories? Stymied, I had to ask once again, what should a play or an opera do? What is the sign of a successful production? What matters most in the experience of theater, and how that impact can be measured? I started to think about my own formative experiences in art, performance, and literature, and this led me to consider more deeply the role of resonance. I might call it presence. I think I've used that word, but resonance works well. Since I was a child, I have loved to read. I mostly read nonfiction. I read biography, science, and history. I read about religion, and I read theoretical writings about art and performance, but I also forget a great deal of what I have read. I forget the facts, and I even forget what triggered the specific insights that happened while reading. Content seems to slip away. Sometimes I forget that I had even read certain books. This forgetfulness used to bother me. But now I now realize that the experiences that happen while reading, the insights and the ensuing emotions are the point. The act of reading attunes me to new channels, adjusts what I pay attention to, and changes the patterns and frequencies of my day-to-day life. Reading has, in large part, transformed me and made me who I am and who I am still becoming. Perhaps, like reading, I thought, the most successful theater experiences, indeed the great art experiences, generate resonance as well as memories. The reverberations engendered in the moment of an artistic encounter can have a profound effect on the body, on neural pathways, and consequently upon one's actions in the world, and subsequently in the world at large. Generally, my decisions about whether or not to take on a new project are based upon my own resonance with a specific material. In opera, the choice is often dependent upon my feeling for and response to the music. In theater, the play or project must literally provoke a frisson de corps, or goosebumps in my own body. I think of my body as a barometer or as a tuning fork. I pay careful attention to the gradations of reverberations, the resonances that arise when considering a new venture. Maybe I should, it was a little more, but maybe not. Maybe that's enough. Well, a little more here, and we'll stop. Good vibrations. Resonance suggests vibrations that synchronize. When fireflies of a certain species come together in large gatherings, they start flashing in sync. A recent study has shown that an audience's heartbeats in the theater sync up as well. When I visit a museum and find myself drawn to certain works of art, I feel myself tuning into the particular frequency of the artwork. Prayer can connect the internal world with the external through vibration. The resonant voice of a singer can set up sympathetic vibrations in my own body. Looking at old photographs that have emotional attachments cause resonance. Why does a particular play, painting, or piece of music resonate with me and others do not? If I am a tuning fork, do certain external frequencies create particular vibrations in me? And do these vibrations then set off a chain reaction? Do I walk away from a play, a painting, or a piece of music better tuned? When I leave a museum after seeing an exhibition, or when I leave a theater after a performance, am I now tuned to a different frequency? Everything in life, said Albert Einstein, is vibration. And she brings a quote. She thinks about his words, hearing the truth of them. They resonate as if a tuning fork aligned with the sound of her heart and gave it a voice. Kimberly Morgan. We inhabit a vibrational universe. Everything moves, nothing is at rest, and everything is energy at different levels of vibration. It goes on, it's beautiful. I'll stop. It's great. It's what we do. We should do. Try to do. Do. All right, all right, all right. Okay, on that note, let's go resonate. Really, really. All right. Keep making stuff. Talk to you later. Take care.